Hey everyone, I'm here at the Sydney premiere for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. This is actually the first new DC movie playing here since IMAX Sydney reopened, but it's also the last DCEU movie ever. So let's head in and check it out.
We'd like to welcome you to this special advanced DC film crew screening of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom here at the brand new IMAX Sydney.
Okay, back from the screening where they gave us these awesome comic books with a special cover as well, and now it's time for my review. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is directed by James Wan, who also directed the first Aquaman movie and many horror movies like The Conjuring. It follows Aquaman as he's raising a family and his newborn child, while Black Manta is after the Black Trident to take revenge on Aquaman. This movie was super entertaining. If you liked the first Aquaman movie, then I think you'll love this one too. A lot of this movie is set underwater, and the visual language of the Atlantean underwater world is so seamless, so immersive. It kind of has this neon electric blue color scheme. I think the fact that the underwater scenes feel so natural is a testament to how hard the VFX team worked on just nailing the visual language. So I love the visuals of this film, super immersive, and they only get better when you get into the huge action set pieces. James Wan does a great job of dropping you into these very exotic locations, extremely weird and wacky kind of antagonists that Aquaman and Orm have to chase after, and it feels very much out of a comic book world. In terms of story, a lot of this movie flows like a chase/heist movie, with Aquaman and Orm kind of teaming up to work through this maze to figure out how to take down Black Manta, and I think this works really well. The best parts of this movie are the dynamic between Aquaman and Orm, who kind of hate each other but are forced to get along so that they can take down Black Manta. And through that, you get a lot of funny moments, but you also get a lot of heartfelt, emotional moments too. One of the reasons that the first Aquaman was so successful was because it was a romance movie as well, and the dynamic between Aquaman and Mera was really, really good. In this film, it very much feels like a family story, and that is a story of brothers between Aquaman and Orm. And so I actually think the standout here is the character arc that Orm goes through in kind of dealing with his relationship with his brother and his family, and what his place and destiny in the world of Atlantis is. So that was the most compelling part of the film for me. As for the villain, Black Manta feels really powerful, really intimidating. Obviously, he's out for revenge, and I think Yahya Abdul-Mateen II does a really good job of portraying that, but they try to interlace this with this kind of deeper evil that he becomes possessed by going after the Black Trident. Without spoiling everything, it's implied that he's kind of letting out this deeper evil ancient source, and I thought that that was kind of cool, especially in the way they portrayed it visually, but the motivation and the compulsion of this villain, it wasn't really delved much into his psyche and why he's doing what he's doing, so I didn't feel too compelled by him, but he's still a really cool and kind of scary villain. There is also a second thematic story running through this movie, which has to do with climate change. Basically, it's implied that our villain is unintentionally harming the planet through his evil plan, and that he doesn't really much care that he's doing that. And while I think the film sends a really great message about climate change, it could have done a better job of actually delving into some of the competing interests that exist in the real world about how to solve climate change and why it's such a crisis that we're facing, and see how that plays out in the world of Atlantis and Aquaman, and what it would be like, for example, if Aquaman, someone who wants to protect the oceans, would have to face, very selfish and greedy humans who don't care about hurting the planet. Comic books are rooted in a lot of political ideologies, and they often deal with political storylines. This film kind of just puts this message of climate change in, but doesn't actually deal with it in any kind of political or nuanced fashion. So I think the execution could have been a lot better. You look at TV shows like Peacemaker, for example, or movies like The Suicide Squad and Watchmen, and they incorporate political elements into their scripts in a really kind of clever and well-considered way, but this just feels like it slides in there and it has something to say, but not much. So the movie takes a while to find its grounding, but once it does, it really is impressive with the exciting action that it hits you with. Sometimes there's a little bit too much exposition, and the pacing feels like it's dragging when we have our villain just kind of exploring the world and and plotting his schemes, but anytime it starts to drag, James Wan usually surprises you with a great action sequence that really is just so entertaining. So overall, I was super entertained by this movie. It really shines when it comes to its action set pieces and its underwater world of immersive visuals, but it would have benefited from a more focused script and stronger themes throughout the story. That said, it delivers enough heartfelt moments and thrills to be a really worthwhile watch. I should also say this is the final DCEU movie, and as a big fan of the DCEU, it was really cool to see Jason's Aquaman back in action one more time. This was never intended to be the last DCEU movie. It was actually supposed to release back in 2022, so don't be surprised at the fact that it doesn't really tie up anything or have cameos that kind of make it a send-off to the DCEU, but nonetheless, Jason was great in this movie as Aquaman, and as a fan, it's still totally worth seeing. So if you've seen the movie, let me know what you thought down below, and make sure to subscribe so I can see you in the next one.